Before the rolling blackouts and the food lines, before the grid itself seemed to awaken. Years before the world began to unravel, a different kind of darkness was already taking root. Jerry Cohen was born into a penthouse with a view that promised destiny. He moved with the precision of good ink, equally at home in boardrooms and at exclusive fundraisers. His father, Josiah, built empires and learned to live in their shadows. A presidential pardon, signed by Gary Benton, erased a decade of legal siege. Reporters called it controversial. Wall Street called it clarifying. The price was a foundation, a sieve for foreign money finding its way into the correct pockets. Jerry learned early, there are courts of law and there are courts of power. You survive the latter to reach the former. He met Athena at a groundbreaking he wasn't meant to attend. She was sunlight and negotiation, her listening a sacrament. Her father, Frank Martin, had muscled his way into Manhattan's top tier without an invitation. Casinos, hotels, racetracks, books with titles blunt enough to bruise, enemies that look just like friends in dim rooms. Jerry and Athena married, their children proof that legacies can be gentler than the men who make them. Jerry specialized in impossible joint ventures, squaring circles with patience and guile. People called him an honest broker, a rarity in that world. Frank had been famous for years, but fame is a flashlight. He spent decades pointing it at other people's dreams. Then he pointed it at the country and saw rot in the beam. Airports whistled with wind through cracked joints. Bridges hummed with fatigue. He'd toured the world and felt humiliation like heartburn. We built the world's ceiling, he'd mutter, and now we live in the basement. He ran for president because every advisor told him not to. The media treated his campaign like a punchline until the punch landed. Election night, anchors blinking, maps bleeding the wrong colors. Frank's victory wasn't just arithmetic, it was an insult, the kind that isn't forgiven. Washington received him with smiles that never touched teeth. Executive orders slid from the resolute desk like coins across a bar. The agencies acknowledged, then misfiled obedience. The Senate pretended not to hear. The House heard only the checkbooks in the gallery. The press developed a new tense where every story could be true long enough to hurt. Frank learned quickly that D.C. wasn't red or blue. It was purple, a color that comes when blood stains money. The purple people eaters, Jerry joked darkly. A uni-party in bespoke suits, mortgages paid by the same donors, appetites shaped by the same dinners. Faith in nothing but continuation. Cut the vines, Frank said. Save the tree. Jerry tapped a legal pad. Cut too deep. Kill the tree. Within the first 100 days, Frank signed the order he intended to be remembered by. A federal strike at human trafficking with teeth sharp enough to bite through fortunes. Freeze accounts. Seize yachts. Jets. Townhouses. If you eat by the river of blood, we will damn it. Phones lit up in the beltway like a brush fire. Corporate suites prepared statements about compliance while hiring lawyers whose only religion was delay. Several CEOs announced retirements and boarded planes without return legs. It was the first time the elite had felt a chill since they invented thermostats. In a brownstone in DC, the smoke of Havana Club cigars lifted in lazy ribbons. Amir Aballa sat with his back to a bookcase, a consigliere without a crown. "Lawfare," he said softly, "we do not need to defeat him, only surround him." Jasmine Yang crossed her legs and smiled like strategy. She'd been his handler long before the word fit. Now she was the point of a spear carved from bureaucracy. "We'll call in favors at the FISA court. Signals intelligence is a tire iron, kept in the trunk until you need to change direction." She opened a list. Loyalists embedded in agencies, the Five Eyes, back channel, picking up American heat, the Constitution would blush at. Law firms that could turn a parking ticket into a scandal. The press would dress in its priestly robes and read the homilies they were given. The aim: no policy without pain, no victory without blood loss. "Pick an attorney general we can break," Amir murmured. "Give me a virtue that doubles as leverage, debt, desire, or a secret." He toasted an empty glass to the portrait of power on the wall. Jerry slid a notebook onto the Oval Office coffee table. Frank's tie was already loosened. He'd learned that formal knots choke when the room is full of snakes. "Three fronts," Jerry said. "Orders for speed, laws for durability, public for cover. You'll need the Senate for the second, the press for the third, and prayer for the first." Frank huffed a laugh. "They hate me, Jer. Not disagree, hate." "That's fear, not theology," Jerry said. "They fear losing what they can't replace." He turned to the page labeled "First 100 Days, Tactics." He started assigning verbs to departments: audit, unwind, prosecute, build. He understood the game better than most. In New York, a deal closes when everyone smiles. In Washington, it closes when everyone bleeds. The Attorney General, a man selected after a dozen phone calls that all sounded like coincidence, took his oath with eyes that couldn't keep a secret. Jasmine had his pressure points catalogued in a 2-page memo and a photograph that never made the news. The Justice Department would move when told and stall when paid. He did both well. Internal memos began to read like riddles. Investigations moved forward and sideways. Pleadings sprouted footnotes like mold. The press received exclusive leaks framed in the minor key. The country learned new synonyms for unprecedented. Frank Martin's in-laws had always been the city itself. Now, his family became statecraft. Jerry stepped through the West Wing with a gait that suggested gravity knew his name. In private, Frank asked a thing no president can admit aloud. What if the rot is load-bearing? Jerry didn't answer. He turned to the window where the south lawn lay, like a promise. He imagined the weight of a world on roots that had forgotten how to drink. In a conference room that smelled of coffee and cold fear, a career analyst slid a thick binder across to Jerry. NGOs, shell corporations, trust webs. Money laundered through humanitarian slogans. Supply chains that ended in rooms without windows. Names that had sat on the same panels and smiled with the same teeth.